Hi everyone, I'm back. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and give you a quick recipe for making pizza dough. It's super easy, and this is again for Annette, just so she can watch. This recipe might be a little different than the one I gave you, but it's still basically the same. You're gonna have your flour, a little sugar, olive oil, yeast, salt, and warm water to make the dough. And we're gonna get started and see how it turns out for y'all. Okay. Okay, so this time, this particular recipe, I just am kind of combining a couple things, my mom's and somebody else's recipe. So this particular one is going to call for 1 1/3 cup of warm water. So we got our warm water right here. I'm going to put it in our bowl. We're then going to get 1 full tablespoon of yeast and then a teaspoon of yeast, so it's a little bit more than my mother's calls for, so we'll see how this goes. Actually, it seems like it's quite a bit, but we're gonna try it. And then it was 1 teaspoon. Okay. And then we're gonna add in 1 teaspoon of sugar as well. So we'll go ahead and do a teaspoon of sugar. And the sugar just actually helps the yeast. It's quite a bit of yeast in here, and you're going to see the yeast will start foaming pretty quickly once you get all stirred in. So we're going to go to just stir that for a second before we add the other ingredients. And you're actually going to let it sit. You're just going to let it sit and kind of foam for a little bit, about 5 minutes I think is what it calls for. So let me get this stirred in real quick. I'm going to let it rest for 5 minutes and come back to it. Just a second, I'm just going to show you what it looks like, and then we'll look at it in 5 minutes, see if there's much of a difference for you to notice. And I'll just kind of do a quick little tilt. I am just stirring it right now, so there's kind of lumps, but we'll see it in just a few minutes. Hi everyone, sorry, so I got ahead of myself, thought I was recording and I wasn't. I want to go ahead and show you what the yeast is going to look like. It is going to be really foamy. That is generally how it's going to look after it's been sitting for a while and activated. I went ahead and put 1 teaspoon of salt in there and then 3 tablespoons of olive oil. Where I thought I was recording and I wasn't, so now we're back on the same page. Now I'm going to stir, and then we're going to start adding the flour. And again, I'm going to keep the olive oil out because I'm going to need it in just a little bit. Once I got my ball, my dough, after that I'm going to do a little olive oil inside my bowl, so that way it doesn't stick when it rises, because you got to let it rise for about an hour. So again, this one has no eggs or anything else in it. It's just, again, it's water, yeast, salt, little sugar, olive oil. Now the flour, that's it. I've got 1 cup here, 1 on reserve. I'm going to go ahead and stir this in. Once I have it in a kind of a dough consistency, then I'll use my hands a little bit. But for now, I am just doing the first cup, and it's approximately 4 cups, similar to the challah bread I made last week. So about 4 cups, and it's kind of eyeball. It's going to be basically how I think I put a little extra water in here, so it might take a little bit more like the 4 cups, maybe a little bit more. So here's my second cup. And today I'm using the King Arthur flour. I ran out of my other flour, and this is the one that I had on backup. I've got, I used my Celtic sea salt, again, because it's a little healthier than regular. And if you still use table salt, I recommend you getting, something that's a little healthier for you and has at least some kind of value versus the traditional table salt. Okay, so I'm going on to 1/3 cup of flour. And I guess I should show you what it's looking like right now, just so you can get a glimpse. And sorry, you guys are going for a ride. That's kind of what it's looking like. I'm gonna go ahead and pour in my third cup, and then I'm going to stir that. So we are almost there, and it's looking like I may only need to do the 3. It's looking pretty solid, so I might not even need 4 cups. I think I'm gonna go ahead and get my hands in here and start kneading it. Okay, so I've now done my kneading, mixing, and there's my dough. Got a nice little dough ball here. I'm gonna go ahead and add a little oil in here, let it sit for about an hour. I'm just gonna put the just a dish towel rag over it just to cover it and let it sit for about an hour to rise. Okay, so it's now been resting for about an hour. It's been actually a little under an hour, and I was just checking it because it looked like it was already starting to kind of do something on top. So you see my bowl here. I'm going to lift my towel, and it's now doubled in size. So there's my dough. I'm just going to get it out of there, divide it in 2, and make 2 balls for 2 pizzas. Okay, so I'm gonna just use a little bit of flour here to get my dough out, and it's now been punched down, and it's actually kind of back to normal. I'm gonna just add a little bit more flour in my hands, lightly dust the surface. And I'm going to divide this dough into 1 dough for 1 pizza and the second dough for another pizza. And again, we're going to go ahead and just slightly flour the surface, and I'm going to get this into a nice soft ball. And then we're going to start working it into, you can see it, it's just a nice soft smooth ball. I'm gonna press it out into the shape that I want for the most part, and I press it out, and then I also lift it up and kind of stretch it out, and eventually I'm going to put it on the pan that I'm going to use. So I'll be showing you a couple more little clips of that as I go along. I'm going to season my pan. I'm going to put a little bit of garlic powder and some other things, seasonings on the bottom that will add to my crust, just a little flavoring. And I do lightly coat my pans with a little olive oil so it just doesn't stick. I don't use a lot. I just put a little spray and then wipe it with the olive oil spray. And you can see it's starting to form kind of a shape. It's actually quite a bit of dough, so I'm going to again, just add a little bit of flour, just kind of smooth it out over it, and flip it over and do the same thing on both sides. I'll get it into my shape, and I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so I've transferred my dough from my countertop to the pan, and I've been working it. I've been kind of pressing it, and the reason why I'm pressing it is to try and get all the air bubbles out as well. So now you can kind of see what it looks like. Here's my pizza dough on my pizza pan, and you could always brush it with a little olive oil, maybe add some more seasonings. You could do a number of things. I'm just kind of creasing where the crust is going to be, and then I'm going to put my toppings on. I went ahead and cut my vegetables I'm going to use on this one ahead of time, and I'm just kind of creasing it in where the crust is going to go, where the crust will be, so it's kind of filled in. And again, just kind of pressing it a little bit, working out any little air pockets so it doesn't have big bubbles underneath. And we'll go ahead and finish it up, and I'll show you what it looks like. So I tried to get a view for you to be able to see a little bit more of the pizza itself, And I've now coated my sauce the way I like it for my husband's pizza. And I'm gonna just go ahead and put toppings on, and then I'll put the cheese on top, and then I'm gonna bake it in the oven. And I bake it probably about, or I did about 400 to 425 depending on how quick I want it to be done. But the higher heat seems to really help cook the dough, the crust, more so than anything, and then also make the top a little bit more golden brown. So now I'm going to go ahead and add my toppings, and then we'll just kind of show you what it looks like. So here you go. I've got now a veggie pizza. I put green olives, black olives. We put some green bell peppers. I also put a vegetarian Italian sausage that I cut up and sauteed to kind of cook them, and put some regular cheese because he does dairy, I don't. And this is what it looks like right now, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's all done and finished. Just wanted to show you my pizza real quick. I use vegan cheese, and the type of cheese that I'm using today is this one right here. It's actually called Violife. It's a pretty good brand for those of you that needed a cheese alternative. And anyway, so I didn't put as much cheese on mine as I do on his, but I did load it with a bunch of the veggie stuff and the fake meat. So I'll show you that as well when it's all done. And shouldn't be much longer on his, and then we will have pizza for dinner. Alright, so here is the first pizza. I don't know if you can see it, but that is the very first one. That is Mark's pizza. It's going to cool off, and I'll show you just a glimpse of mine. Mine's a little different because it's got the fake cheese on it, but you can see his pizza, and it turned out very nice. The crust is kind of nice little golden brown to it. That's kind of what you want. One other test that I do is I kind of lift it up and see that it's firm. If it's a firm crust, then you know your inside should be good as well. Okay, final result. Here's my pizza, and you can kind of see it as well. Kind of got that golden look on the edges. Should be good.